All right, what is happening? We are almost done with the year. We are in our last big unit. This test won't be till March 26th. Don't let that fool you. We've got spring break in there, and it's going to go really fast. So we're actually going to test on like a Wednesday, and we'll start the next unit right after that. You have 8 lessons in this unit, so please, please, please stay on task. We are in the sectionalism and the Civil War. Part 1 is what you have right now. This is going to be sectionalism, all the events that are leading to the Civil War. And then we'll test on the Civil War, and that's all due March 26th. So we really have like 2 units in one. So keep that in mind. I have my notes here. I am ready. I hope you have your notes in front of you. They are all fill in the blank now, so you need to make sure that you are filling in the blanks, that you are listening. Remember, I'm leaving stuff out. You are about to go to high school, and there's going to be no self-paced and no notes. And so you're going to have to learn how to write stuff down, so make sure you're taking notes as well. All right, let's get started. All right, so the causes of the Civil War: sectionalism, states' rights, and slavery. And so most of the beginning part of this is going to be sectionalism, which really leads to states' rights, which incorporate or encompasses slavery. And so they're all kind of tied together, but these would be our 3 pillars that are all leading to the Civil War. So the first thing you're going to be able to do is just look at how the expansion of slavery is causing sectionalism. You're going to be able to talk or explain to me really the impacts of tariffs and the policies on the sections and how it's leading to sectionalism, and then the economic differences among the different regions leading to sectionalism. So all these things are leading to sectionalism. So in your notes, we have the word sectionalism. Let me see if it has a definition. Yes, so we have sectionalism. Different parts of the United States are wanting and needing something different. And so sectionalism is that different economic industries lead to different values and properties. So it's a little bit different than what you had on your activity for vocab. We looked at just the interests of one region outweighs that of the United States. It's the same thing. So different economic industries, cash crops, and industrialization are leading to different values and different priorities, different wants and needs. So sectionalism is taking your region, the South or the North or the West, and making it more important than that of the United States. And so each of these regions, the North and the South, are going to see their region as more important than that of the other, which is causing this tension between the regions. So we're going to look at the North, we're going to look at the South. We're going to look at the North's climate, its industries, its view on tariffs, its views on state rights, and we're going to look at the South. So review, we're going to do this quick. North, remember, it's cold. It has short growing seasons, and so it economically is going to develop differently. They have the rocky soil, but they have a ton of rivers to power factories. Because it cannot grow cash crops, it has to find another way to make money. People there have to make money, and so it develops naturally into the industrial hub of the United States. Remember, railroads are much more prominent there. There is more railroad systems there, and you have the canals, which enables the steamboats. And so just transportation to get those finished goods from the industries to the rest of the United States is more easily done in the North than in the South. All right, and so the North, remember, urbanization, big important thing. Factories led to job opportunities. We have crowded cities. We have talked about this, I feel like, until the cows come home. Factories, or what we know as mills, those textiles mills, were what the South was sending cotton to. So as long as cotton is being grown in the South, in the abundance that it is, the factories in the North, or the mills, are happy. And so the North is just implicitly involved in slavery as the South is. They are going to support that protective tariff. We're going to look at that in just a minute. But remember, the South saw this as an economic burden, and so this is kind of causing that tension. The North wants that tariff, or what we call a protective tariff, same thing. So it forces the South to buy from them, making overseas goods more expensive, but the South saw this as unfair. They saw it as a burden. And then I just threw this in here so we remember the abolitionist movement. Since there are fewer slaveries, or really more freed African Americans in the North than in the South, abolitionist movement is more prominent in the North. And then the South, we have our sunshine. Here's our South right here. Climate is warm. It has long growing seasons. It has fertile soil. It has the ability to grow cash crops. So plantations come second, cash crops. So you have your environment or your climate first. Because the climate is conducive to growing cash crops, plantations are formed. And so we have the plantation system. Cities were smaller as a result because most of the land are plantations. Remember, they're not finishing goods there. There's no factories there. They're growing the raw material and sending that raw material to the north to finish into a good and then buying it back from the north. We have the cotton gin is going to increase the value of growing cotton, which is increasing that demand for slavery. And then environmental consequences, we always want to look at kind of environmental modifications. So a change to the earth, that would be overplanting. That's going to have a consequence. Soil is going to become exhausted and it's going to cause the decays of farming. Just so you know, we've got to be thinking about these geological factors as well. And then we have the West. The West is kind of stuck in the middle of this. Remember, they're focused on mining, agriculture, and livestock. They are going to back government spending, aka tariffs, so maybe circle government spending right off to the side. These are tariffs. The taxes on imported goods are going back into the United States, and so this tariff money is actually going to build roads and canals. Those roads and canals are in the north for the most part, but it's getting the goods to the west. So we're building canals that connect to the west. We're building railroad systems that connect to the west. So the West is all about this tariff because it's creating a transportation system to get the finished goods from the north. So getting that sweatshirt from the north out to the west. That's what I just said. All right. All of this is financed by the tariff. So let's think about a tariff from a northern's perspective. So we're putting our shoes in the northerner's perspective. I work in a factory, or I'm a politician that is representative of northern people. High tariffs helped the industrial north by making prices more competitive against those cheap imports. More competitive means that the pricing becomes almost fair. So since that tax is put on the imported goods, that imported good goes up in price, kind of making it equal to that of what the northerners would be selling it for. So they want that tariff. It's influencing Americans to buy more American-made products and increasing the cost of European-made products. So if we are going to put a tariff on China, that iPhone is going to get more expensive, maybe forcing me to buy from that of a mom and pop shop here in the United States. Or a better example would be my sweater I have on, I got from Amazon from China. Maybe it was only $20. If I bought it in a cute little boutique on the square by a local owned person, it might be $40. Well, if that tariff is put in place, maybe we've got a $35 sweater from Amazon and a $40 sweater from that of the mom and pop in my town. And so we're making the prices competitive or fair. I hope that makes sense. Now, a Southern's view, the Southerners have to buy all of their goods either imported or from the north. So now we're in the shoes of a Southerner. Since they, like I just said, since they're growing cash crops, they don't have factories in the South. They have to buy from the north, or they have to buy from the foreign countries. They're going to see this tariff as a burden. They're going to sell a lot of their cotton back to Europe still. We haven't really talked about that yet. They still have trade partners with Europe. So this tariff is also causing kind of a trade dispute between Europe and the Southern farmers as well. Okay. All right, I'm just going to read this. High tariffs on raw materials force the South to sell their materials for lower prices. Okay, so this high tariff is actually causing them to sell things for lower prices. Tariffs on manufacturing goods cause them to pay higher prices on products regardless of where they're getting it from. So they're not making as much money as they would have, and they're having to pay more money to get the products they need. I hope that makes sense. So really the South is kind of, it's not super fair to them, hence the nullification crisis back with Andrew Jackson. This is just a visual. So the South is sending their products back to Europe. They are finishing it. That's not really happening because it costs too much money now because of that protective tariff. Westerners' view, we already looked at this. They support this government spending because it's producing transportation means to get the goods to the West, or even just allowing people to live in the West and creating their own businesses or markets out West. Boom. Yay, we're happy. Okay, now we've got this states' rights idea. We looked at this in our vocab words. States' rights is this idea that states, it's the 10th Amendment, we're going to get to it, states have the right to choose what they do if it's not within the Constitution. So from a Southerner's viewpoint, they argue that slavery was a state rights issue in an effort to protect what they wanted. So they're kind of, maybe they're stretching it, maybe they're not. You to decide that. The 10th Amendment does state that if it's not written in the Constitution, if it's not a law, if it's not written into the Constitution by the federal government, it is up to the states to decide on if it's legal in its state or not. So we have different laws that are allowed in states. So marijuana is always a big one. It is legal in some states. It's illegal in other states because it's not within the Constitution. It is a states' rights issue. Based on the 10th Amendment, the federal government was prohibited from stopping the right of slave owners to carry their property, slaves, into a new territory. Sectionalism, and a lot of what we're going to look at is the tension is growing. Are we expanding slavery into these new Western states or are we not? And so the Southern's view of states' rights is this right here. So I'd highlight this. Based on the 10th Amendment, our states' rights amendment, the federal government could not, prohibited means did not, stop a slave owner from bringing their slaves into new territories because it's up to the states to decide, not the federal government. This is huge. So maybe highlight or box this whole part on your notes. This is really leading us into the actual fighting of the Civil War. And it's going to interfere with slavery in states that had already existed. So what do we do about states that had already existed in, like Texas? So right next to that, Texas. Texas that already exists. So are you going to take Texas' right to slavery away or not? And then this is kind of throughout history. We have seen states' rights throughout history. South Carolina declared this with the Tariff of Abomination. We've talked about this a lot. They said this is unfair, and if it's unfair to the state, then we can secede the Union. And that's the big one that we've talked about so far. All right, that's it. There is lesson 1. Most important of lesson 1 is, are we expanding slavery? The South says we can under the states' rights 10th Amendment. The North, we don't know yet because I haven't told you yet. All right.